and the least they can do is give the same urgency to stop this shamelessly corrupt fleecing of the American people.
He's pretty
now,
mad,
I get it. Trump is suing the U.S. government for $230 million, and I guess these senators want in on the action. They want their own payday, but I've never seen this level of grift, shameless corruption, and theft of public money in my entire life, ever. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to insert the text of my amendment into the record along with extraneous material immediately prior to the vote on the previous question, and to discuss our proposal. I yield a minute.
If you wear glasses or contacts, I have a bit of bad news for you. Life with glasses and contacts isn't always fun at times. You know what I mean.
Request.
Meltdown.
The chair will remind the gentleman from Massachusetts and others to please refrain from engaging in personalities toward members of the Senate. Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Ranking Member McGovern. I mean, you know what people hate more than seeing their costs go up? Is seeing their costs go up while corrupt politicians line their pockets with taxpayer money. That's what they really hate. But that's what this bill does. Republican senators slipped into this bill a legal pathway for them to personally receive millions of dollars in taxpayer money for being investigated after January 6th. And the other side talks about fiscal responsibility and says there's no money for health care, but somehow there's taxpayer money for Republican senators. This is an ethics violation. This is a breach of trust.
How is anyone a Democrat?
I'm Representative Suha Subi Poopy Doomy Dumbo, and the Republicans are evil.
Dude, who are you? What are you talking about?
Well, you are the system. And House Republicans promised to vote on this next week as a standalone bill, but there's no guarantee that the Senate will act. In fact, they probably won't act, right? So you have the power to join us in righting this wrong today. So let's take out this ridiculous kickback. Otherwise, a vote for this bill is a vote for corruption. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Young lady from Minnesota.
Yield out of the country, please. Yield as far away as you can.
I never said, Mr. Speaker, that this bill was perfect. And not everyone agrees with the provision, and our colleague from Georgia had just mentioned and is already addressing it. But what we do agree on is that it is critically important to get the government open, and that's why we are here today. Getting our federal employees paid, getting our troops paid, getting SNAP back on track, getting our airports back to full capacity. Once this happens, we can tackle the issues and get back to really doing the things for the American people, not using their suffering as leverage, like the Democrat Whip Clark is willing to do. Democrats have spent weeks performing political theater by refusing to open government and continue to perform that political theater.
They did that.
But we need to prioritize the reopening of the government and stop the suffering that the Democrats want to use as leverage. And with that, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from New York.
Gentleman from New York is recognized for 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong support of this rule and ending this shutdown chaos. For more than 40 days, the American people have endured a painful and entirely avoidable government shutdown. Not because of policy differences, but because Senate Democrats and Chuck Schumer chose politics over people. And while Washington stalled, hardworking Americans paid the price. Our air traffic controllers went without pay. A system stretched thinner by the day, putting new strain on that system that put millions of lives at risk. Americans depend on them to keep our skies safe. In families who rely on SNAP and WIC, parents just trying to feed their kids were left wondering how they'd make it through another week. And at the same time, our border agents and our Coast Guard members, they continued to serve this country as their own families went without pay. And through it all, while everyday Americans carried the weight of the shutdown, Senate Democrats had chance after chance to end it. But instead, they chose to prolong the pain. That is not leadership. That's hypocrisy. It was never about budgets or priorities. It was about power. It's not about turning government on. For them, it's about turning government into performance, where the people paying the highest price are the ones furthest from Washington. For more than 40 days, families were used as political pawns and props, while those responsible stood in front of cameras, pretending to solve.
Folks, should I run for Congress someday? I'm just thinking, man, Maybe I'm gonna have to get up there and do this someday. Somebody's got to get up here and bring the heat. Somebody's got to get up here and bring the heat and hold the feet to the fire, the radical progressive feet to the fire, and really do some damage up here. Now, I see Super Chat responding. He says, anyone in these proceedings and debates should be charged with perjury for intentionally getting up there and lying. They all took an oath when they took their positions representing their states and constituents. So many lies. I think it depends on what they're saying. Who's saying what? What are they saying? I don't know. But yeah, maybe you're right. I think you're a little bit right.
Angry mob. This measure before us today is the same bipartisan framework they could have passed 40 days ago. The only thing that has changed is the political calendar. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge my colleagues to support the rule, stand with the American people, the families of veterans and public servants who have carried the burden of this shutdown, and let's reopen our government, and let's get this country moving. And I yield back, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from Massachusetts.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record an article from ABC News entitled Inflation Climbs to the Highest Level Since January, Beef Prices Soar.
Without objection.
I request unanimous consent to insert into the record an article from the Washington Post entitled From Groceries to Gas, Americans Say They're Spending More Under Trump.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record an article from the New Republic entitled No, You're Wrong, Trump Spirals When Pressed on Rising Food Prices.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record an article from the New Republic entitled Trump Admits He Doesn't Care About Affordability as Economy Plunges.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record an article from MSNBC entitled Not a Big Issue, Republicans Shrug as Consumers Confront Healthcare Sticker Shock.
MSNBC, really?
I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record an opinion article published in MSNBC entitled Trump's Argentina Bailout Once Again Puts America Last.
Without objection.
This guy is
I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record an article from PBS entitled Trump Administration Working on Doubling Argentina Financing to $40 billion.
With Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record an article from Forbes entitled
Phil Scoop disengaged.
KRRO. CXAI.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record an article from Forbes entitled Presidency Boosts Trump's Net Worth by $3 billion in a year.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record an article from People.com entitled Donald Trump hosts Great Gatsby-themed Halloween party as 42 million Americans brace for SNAP benefits to expire.
Without objection.
Wow.
I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record an article from the New York Times entitled Trump's latest White House makeover, the Lincoln bathroom in marble and gold.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record an article from The Nation entitled The Bill to End the Shutdown is Full of Giveaways to Republicans.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself 15 seconds.
Gentleman is recognized for 15 seconds.
I'm sorry that the gentlelady thinks that trying to stop people's health care premiums from doubling and tripling and quadrupling is political theater, but we don't. And I don't have time to address all the BS coming from my colleagues across the chamber, but it's clear that this Republican leadership is not only failing to deliver on their promises, they're selling out at the expense of the basic needs of the American people. I reserve.
NBB.
Time is reserved. Gentlelady from Minnesota.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas.
Gentleman from Texas, Mr. Roy, is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank the gentleman from Arkansas. I thank the gentlelady from Minnesota. And here we are on September 19th. House Republicans passed legislation which would have funded government through November 20th. Here we are on November 12th.
Ladies and gentlemen, permission to submit to the public record an article from Matt Moore's TV Media entitled Low IQ Democrat Idiot Wastes Everyone's Time. Submitted to the record officially. Thank you.
On the other side of the aisle, we're searching for a reason for voters to support them next November. They were searching for a cause. And we know this because there was intervening elections and a lot of rhetoric, but no result. We're here right now with Democrats having joined senators to send a bill over here to fund government through the end of January with 3 appropriations bills, which we worked through regular order, that keeps spending relatively flat, advances the priorities the American people sent us here to advance, to back up the president, who is securing the border, which he was sent to Washington to do, to restore our military to focusing on defending this nation rather than advancing woke priorities, which the American people sent him here to do, for us to continue to work to grow and to build this economy after 4 years of being wrecked with reckless spending, but also abhorrent policies. The American people are now saying, what on earth were Democrats doing? And my Democrat colleagues' response is health care, because it's the only default position they have is the default to health care. And the fact is, it's because they broke the system so badly that they are now coming and asking us to have the Treasury print money to then give out in order to enrich insurance companies with massive subsidies. That's the actual fact. And the American people understand this. And they recognize that they don't want insurance companies to be enriched, but they want to be able to go get the doctor of their choice. The American people understand this, and so do we. And we're here to open the government, and we're here to stand up for doctors and patients instead of insurance companies and big regulators. I support this legislation. I know my Republican colleagues do. The question really is, will Democrats, or will they wish to perpetuate the shutting down of government to enrich insurance companies? I yield back.
That's exactly what they want to do.
Well, a couple of things, Mr. Speaker. I don't think we want to be lectured by somebody who, over the years, has been the king of government shutdowns and who worked for a United States senator that pushed for a government shutdown and to object to the Affordable Care Act. But by the way, I just want to make it clear to everybody: this is a Republican shutdown. They control the White House, they control the House, they control the Senate. You know, this government shutdown because they don't want to negotiate. It's their way or the highway. This is a Republican shutdown. They own it. I now yield 1.5 minutes.
Is that right? Really? Okay.
The distinguished ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, Mr. Raskin.
Gentleman from Maryland is recognized for 1.5 minutes.
Raskin.
And thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. McGovern. This bill, which they now call imperfect, contains the single most corrupt provision for legislative self-dealing that anyone in this chamber today has ever voted on. It is such an egregiously corrupt act of legislator self-enrichment and plunder of the taxpayer that not only did every single House Democrat oppose it in the Rules Committee last night, but multiple Republicans were denouncing it. That is, before they were summoned into a side room and instructed to vote for it, which they all proceeded to do. Now they're telling us, vote for it today, and they'll repeal it, well, maybe next week, or maybe the week after that, or maybe before Christmas, they'll repeal it. I've got a solution for you. If you don't like this corrupt provision, don't vote for it today. That will work. This is a great bill. A great bill, that is, if you think 8 Republican U.S. senators should have a right to collect at least $1 million.
This is made for my artist robotic FUE hair procedure, Micro Hair Ending.
NBVE.
Get the results you want with the Artist Robotic FUE. Call 317-522-2995 or go to WeGrowHairending.com today.
Those rules for anybody else, not for more than 300 million Americans. Not for the members of the House of Representatives, not for governors and mayors, but for themselves. They want to deal themselves a special legal.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in opposition to this continuing resolution. I will not support a bill that will continue the Republicans' assault on Americans and their pocketbooks. At a time when Oregonians and Americans are already struggling with rising costs, this bill locks in devastating cuts to health care and drives up the cost, in many cases significantly. The assault on health care and the Republican shutdown more broadly, they're further proof that the first 10 months of this Trump administration have been chaotic, harmful, and completely out of touch with the needs of the American people. Donald Trump held an extravagant Great Gatsby party at Mar-a-Lago the night before SNAP benefits expired, while the administration and Republicans continue to ignore the needs of working families. That's not governing. They've abandoned their responsibility to bring down costs and grow the economy. And Mr. Speaker, this bill was already bad, but now they added this corrupt get-rich-quick scheme to give hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars to Trump-aligned senators? That is outrageous. Oregonians and Americans deserve better.
Really?
My colleagues should listen to their constituents, vote no.
Look at Raskin back there on his cell phone, dude. You're so gross. This has to be the grossest person in Washington, D.C.
Minnesota, with 14 and 1/2 minutes remaining.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from North Carolina.
Gentleman from North Carolina is recognized for 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today as we are in the process of ending the longest government shutdown in our nation's history, and to affirm that this Congress will get back to leading America into her next golden age. Over 40 days, that is how long the government has been closed. For over 40 days, Democrats here in this body and in the Senate have chosen chaos over our country. They chose to shut the government down because politics demanded it, not policy. The elites who dominate their party's decision-making are the ones least impacted by its decisions. Were the far-left activists and Democrats here in this body the ones not getting paychecks? No, Mr. Speaker. That was the air traffic controllers, our troops, and our Capitol Police officers. When these same people passed Obamacare, were they the ones impacted by the law, or was it the middle-class teacher in North Carolina who could no longer keep their doctor? We all know the answer to that, Mr. Speaker. And across the nation, federal workers are working 2 and 3 jobs just to stay afloat. Also, Democrats could champion illegal aliens who exploit our compassion as they poison our communities with deadly fentanyl.
True.
That is not governing. That was extortion of the American taxpayer.
And they smell bad.
But that ends today. Today, we are in the process of finally reopening the government, returning to the business of the people, and further implementing the mandate our constituents sent us here to deliver on. Democrats chose to have a month of political theater, but political shows don't do one thing to help make the cost of everyday items more affordable. It is time to govern and to focus on making America more affordable for the middle class. Mr. Speaker, I urge a yes vote on this rule, and with that, I'll yield back.
Gentleman from Massachusetts.
Mr. Speaker, we're getting lectured on governance by a guy who is just coming off an 8-week paid vacation. Give me a break. At this time, I'd like to yield 1.5 minutes.
You put him on vacation.
New Jersey, the next
you shut the government
Jersey,
down.
Ms. Sherrill.
The gentlelady from New Jersey is recognized for 1 1/2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to a rule for a bill that does nothing to protect over 450,000 New Jerseyans who will see their health care premiums skyrocket. I took my first oath to the Constitution when I was 18 and went to the Naval Academy. It's an oath to serve, to run toward the fight. And so I ran for Congress after I saw Washington Republicans attacking the Affordable Care Act. I promised I would take on the status quo. I would fight the big fights, because that's what people expect. Of their leaders. That's what people deserve from their leaders. And I'm proud of the wins that I've delivered as your representative for New Jersey's 11th District. Capping the cost of insulin and prescription drugs for seniors, funding the Gateway Tunnel, the PACT Act for veterans, flood mitigation projects, delivering for Picatinny Arsenal. You have trusted me, New Jersey, and last week you placed your trust in me again, electing me your 57th governor. So I ran on a similar promise, to take on anyone and stop at nothing to lower costs and build opportunity for everyone. This will be my last speech in this chamber. I intend to submit my resignation next week and turn to protecting all of New Jersey. So my parting message to Jersey is, thank you. To my staff, thank you for your dedication to serving the 11th District of New Jersey. To my colleagues, Do not let this body become a ceremonial red stamp from an administration that takes food away from children
Gentlelady
and
will
rips
suspend.
away health care.
30 seconds.
Gentlelady's given another 30 seconds.
Matt Morris, don't you dare insult a vet with that flag behind you. Actually, I'm totally able to insult veterans if I disagree with them. Not by their nature of their veteran status, but yes, if someone happens to be a veteran and I disagree with their policy point, I'm totally going to call them stupid. Yeah, of course I am. What do you think is going on here, dude? Of course I can do that. Everybody can do that.
Gentlelady from Minnesota reserves.
Yes.
Gentleman from Massachusetts.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Rhode Island, Mr. Magazzino.
Gentleman from Rhode Island is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, House Republicans are back from their 54-day taxpayer-funded vacation. But don't get me wrong, they do know how to work hard. When billionaires wanted tax breaks, they moved mountains to make it happen. When Argentina needed a $40 billion bailout to help Trump's buddy, they moved quickly to make it happen at the White House. But when working people need help, when millions of Americans are seeing their health insurance costs double and triple, and Americans all across this country are feeling like they're going to have to go without health insurance for the first time in their lives because they can't afford it anymore and have to make that terrible decision about which of their family members they're going to cut off of their insurance, House Republicans are nowhere to be found. When Donald Trump's stupid tariffs are raising the price of groceries, the cost of coffee is up 40% over the last year, House Republicans are silent. When working people need help, they are absent. Shameful. So they will work when billionaires need tax cuts, when Argentina needs a bailout, but when working people need relief, they go on a taxpayer-funded vacation. Shameful, Mr. Speaker. Vote no on this budget. Do not cut the health care of the American people, and I yield back.
Gentlelady from Minnesota.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from New York.
Once again, right now these Democrats are absolutely totally seething and melting down because they want the temporary Biden-era, COVID-era ACA subsidies to be extended. They were designed to be temporary. In the last 4 years, not once have they ever reduced anybody's healthcare costs or premiums, and as it would turn out, about 20% of these Biden-era ACA sort of bonus money here really is what it is. 20% of it to the tune of $50 billion ended up going to illegal aliens. So it's just totally crooked.
It's about tackling the healthcare affordability crisis in this country. Then they would address the fundamental problem with Obamacare. Since Obamacare took effect, healthcare premiums have risen by 96%, and on the open market by 114%. When I asked Leader Jeffries to sign on to the 1 year extension of the premium tax credit, he refused. He stuttered, he stammered, he couldn't answer a single question. Because this shutdown was never about health care, it was always about appeasing a far-left radical base. Chuck Schumer said, every day gets better for us. Catherine Clark said, of course people will suffer. We want to use this as leverage. It is an embarrassment to this country. You should all be ashamed of yourselves for inflicting this pain on the American people, taking away food stamps from 42 million Americans, defunding WIC, not paying our troops, our federal employees, our air traffic controllers. It's a disgrace, and you should all hang your heads in shame. Vote yes to pass the bill and reopen the government.
Be serious. He's not messing around.
Let me remind my colleagues. Yeah. I fully recognize that there's a lot of pent-up anxiety, and emotions have been elevated somewhat.
43 days of pent-up
in the interest
anger.
of the decorum of this House, to direct your comments to the chair and do not engage in personalities toward the Senate, toward the President, and others. Gentleman from Massachusetts with 14 and 1/2 minutes remaining.
Well, Mr. Speaker, let me just say the gentleman from New York
it's
sounds as
AOC.
extreme as his voting record. And I'd like to say to the gentleman who just spoke, by supporting this bill, he's betraying 7,000 constituents in his district who rely on the ACA to afford their health care. Boy, I'm glad he's not my representative. At this time, I'd like to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from New York, Mr. Kennedy.
Gentleman from New York is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, as the representative of Western New York, where so many people in my community, like others across the country, are already struggling to afford health care, I urge my colleagues to reject this disgraceful bill. As an occupational therapist, I know exactly who these cuts will hurt. I've heard from so many who are desperate for a lifeline, like Iris, a mom in Buffalo who's worried about how she'll keep her kids' health insurance, or Andy, a nursing home resident in Tonawanda who relies on Medicaid to get the services he needs, or the kids at Born Hava, a special needs school where I provided therapy,
or Raul, who illegally invaded this country and has been collecting SNAP benefits and ACA Medicaid benefits despite being an illegal alien. And his abuela, and his tío, and his tía, and his hermanos, and all of them.
Shame on anyone who goes along with it. This country deserves better. I'll be voting no, and I urge all of my colleagues to do the same. I yield back.
Gentlelady from Minnesota. Reserves. Gentleman from Massachusetts.
Mr. Speaker, some big news and breaking news in the last hour. I'm proud to say that our newest colleague, Representative Adelita Grijalva, just became the 218th signature on the Massey-Kana discharge petition to compel the release of the Epstein files. Whoa. And to all my Republican colleagues who refuse to sign on, time is up. You need to figure out where you stand on this because you're about to go on record. Is your loyalty to Trump more important than going after pedophiles? Because make no mistake, these files will come out. It is no longer a question of if, only when.
So, I actually do want the files to come out. Honestly, I'm in favor of disclosure. They're not going to come out. This is all symbolic and virtue signaling. Even if they pass it through the House here, and they probably will, to be honest, it seems like they've got the votes. It's got to go through the Senate, and then it's got to go, President Trump has to sign off on it. And those two things are not going to happen. So this whole discussion about Epstein files in the House right now, it is all just optics. Nothing is actually going to happen.
I came to fight for my constituents who deserve to be able to see a doctor they trust, afford their medication, and keep their families healthy. If House Republicans let the ACA tax credits expire, they are complicit in forcing Oregonians to make impossible choices, like whether to keep their insurance or put food on the table. As a physician, I know what comes next. People go without. They go uninsured, they delay care, and they skip refills. They get sicker, and sometimes they end up in medical debt that is devastating. The cost of living is already too damn high. Republicans are committed to cutting your care. They patently rejected amendments to protect Americans, ignoring millions of American families who are desperate for relief. I will be an absolute no on the rule and the underlying bill, and I refuse to give up on ensuring affordable health care for all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
She looks like a transgender Antifa member. And I know that's incredibly rude. I'm sorry. Lord Jesus, forgive me. She looks like a transgender Antifa member.
And he's very proud that it has 218 signatures. But not that long ago, today, we had a UC that would have moved that along, would have moved that resolution along over to the Senate, and I believe the Democrats objected to it. So it seems more like a political stunt than it does that they actually wanted to have that resolution moved along, because if they had not objected, it would have gone on its way and they would have accomplished what they wanted to do. So I don't see their real desire to have the resolution passed. I see it more of, like I said, a political stunt. And it certainly is actually a moot point, given that oversight is already releasing many of those files. As a matter of fact, I believe they've done tens of thousands of them, but I believe this morning they did another 20,000 files. So they are being released, and this all seems for naught. But with that, Mr. Speaker, I would like to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from California.
Gentleman from California is recognized for 1 minute. All right.
Mr. Speaker, Jimmy Fela offered Democrats this pro tip. If you're going to call it the Republican shutdown, you're not supposed to get mad that it's ending. Anyone who remembers their schoolhouse rock knows that once the House originates an appropriation, the Senate must either amend it or pass it. Now, the House did its job on September the 19th with a simple appropriation that made no policy changes, that merely kept the government operating at current levels while we finished debating priorities. Democrats deliberately blocked the Senate from acting, demanding $1.5 trillion of new spending as a ransom. Finally, thank God, 8 of them put country ahead of party and voted to end this madness.
Yep.
Now, hearing the bitter recriminations from our leftist colleagues, it seems unlikely we'll see much bipartisanship today. But with or without them, we will reopen the government tonight and get back to addressing the challenges that confront our country.
I hope so.
I yield back.
Gentleman from Massachusetts with 11 minutes.
Can you imagine if this thing now gets held up in the House? Good Lord. Imagine if we can't push this thing through the House now.
I'm glad she did, because I want the record to be clear. I didn't hear any objection on the floor. The Republican chair basically ruled it as an improper UC request, and so that is why it didn't move forward. Time and time and time and time again voted against releasing the Epstein files. And I know my Republican friends are hoping that they don't have to go on record because they don't want to get Trump upset at them. But the bottom line is every single Republican will go on record, and you will have to make clear whether you're on the side of a pedophile or whether you're on the side of the victims.
The gentleman from Massachusetts is reminded to direct his comments to the chair, please.
Thank you,
You may
Mr.
continue.
Chair. You now yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from Washington, Ms. Jayapal.
The young lady from Washington is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to oppose this bill that allows health insurance premiums for 22 million American families to skyrocket and raises health care costs for everyone.
Yeah, you're getting
Trump
deported.
and his Republican cult of followers in Congress have unleashed shameful crisis of cruelty and corruption on the American people. First, they slashed Medicaid by $1 trillion, kicked 15 million Americans off of health care, set up the playboard for rural hospitals to shutter, all so that you could give $7 trillion in permanent tax breaks to their billionaire buddies. Then they refused to negotiate with Democrats to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits so that 22 million Americans wouldn't have to choose between health care and rent. And when we refused to go along with that, they caused this 45-day Republican shutdown, illegally refused to pay SNAP benefits for the hungry, and illegally canceled flights, throwing the country.
Remember that time that the Supreme Court said that Trump actually didn't have to pay SNAP benefits? Remember that? Remember that time the Supreme Court said that? Like 5 days ago? I remember that.
Pardons those who buy his meme coins and lets Americans starve. Shame on you. I'm a hell no on this bill.
Young lady from Minnesota.
You are getting
Mr.
deported.
Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Tennessee.
Gentleman from Tennessee is recognized for 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to oppose the Senate's provision that allows senators to make financial gain off illegal government surveillance. 3 things can be true at once, Mr. Speaker. The first truth is this: the shutdown has to end. The American people and countless Tennesseans I represent are suffering and experiencing real pain. This record-breaking Schumer Democratic shutdown was completely avoidable, and it was completely carried out for political purposes. The second truth is that the last administration, led by Joe Biden and his auto pen, unfairly surveilled conservatives and conservative members of Congress. That included sitting United States senators. Yet, Mr. Speaker, the third thing I would note is that the American taxpayer has suffered enough because of the last administration. No one in this body should support allowing senators to sue and collect from taxpayers because the FBI went rogue under President Biden. But don't get me wrong, the overreach is more than troubling. It's unfathomable that the Department of Justice was weaponized in this way. I fully support holding those radical agents accountable and the ongoing investigations into their misdeeds. Yet no elected official should profit from the political calculation of left-wing bureaucrats and judges. Mr. Speaker, the folks I represent are still reeling from historic Bidenflation, the effects of the border crisis, and the regulatory agenda of the last administration. It is shameful to ask them to shoulder the burden of paying U.S. senators $500,000 or more for those misdeeds. With that, I yield back, Mr.
Gentleman from Massachusetts.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green.
Oh, no.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 1 minute.
And still I rise, Mr. Speaker. I rise to call to my colleagues' attention that they are no longer claiming that this is a clean CR. The truth is that it is a dirty, filthy, stealthy CR.
Could you imagine if George Washington could see this freaking caveman up here in the House chamber? Could you imagine if the Founding Fathers could see the current state of this country?
Because they have concluded somehow that they have been harmed when no harm has been proven or brought to our attention. I believe that health care for all is important because we in the Congress have the best health care in the world. Yet people with the best health care in the world do not see fit for persons who need it, who are among the least, the last, and the lost, to acquire health care, something that they have. Health care is becoming wealth care for too many people in this country. We need to extend the subsidies. We need to make sure that everybody who can get to a doctor gets care. This is not a poor country. I refuse to take a poison pill and have you tell me that I'll regurgitate it next week. The poison pill.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentlelady from Minnesota reserves. Gentleman from Massachusetts.
I inquire how many more speakers the gentlelady has, because she doesn't seem to have very many.
I believe we have one more, Mr. Speaker.
We have several. Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from New York, Ms. Ocasio-Cortez.
Gentlelady from New York is recognized for 1 minute.
It is great. It is great that Democrats have a line of people who are willing to fight for working class Americans from coast to coast in this country, because God